DevOps used to be the buzzword in the industry. However, there is a new term called GitOps, which is now ruling the microservices and the container based platforms. Let's see what is this GitOps and how we can leverage GitOps to deploy applications on the container based environment like Kubernetes. Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss any update from Tech Primers. Before getting into what is GitOps, we all know what is Git. Let's brush up the basics so that we can understand GitOps better. As you guys know, Git is a distributed version control system where we manage our source code. It has text files, certificate files, or configuration files. These are different types of files we use to maintain inside Git. Also, we use it for collaborating with different members in the team. So we use it efficiently for managing our source code, right? So that is what Git is. And what is ops? So this ops term comes from the same DevOps term where we used to do release, deploy, and operate and monitor as a part of the operations. So it's exactly the same. What do we do here is we configure, build, test, and deploy as a part of dev, and the operations part is the releasing, and the management of the production environment, right? It also includes the automation of deployments, rollbacks, etc. So now what is GitOps? So GitOps is an operational practice which uses Git. So how does it use Git? So we use Git as a source of truth. Let's see what is that source of truth in the next slide. However, let's see the other points before. So we drive the operations, configurations, and the management using a Git repo. We leverage Git repos, version controlling system, peer reviewing system, and the history to automate the deployment process for our production environments. So how is it done? It is done using the continuous delivery and the automated pipelines, which we do for the application deployment as well. Additionally, the webhooks from the Git can be leveraged in order to push these configurations into the dev and test environments. And once you merge that particular pull request onto a main branch, the deployment to production happens. So what is this Git as a source of truth? This is nothing but having your infrastructure as a code. So which basically means all your infrastructure setup is inside a code base. A typical example would be, imagine that a Tomcat deployment can be done from a code base. So let's say you have a code base and then you click a button and it does a Tomcat deployment in a host. So it is exactly similar. However, it is done at the container platform level. Example, Kubernetes. So if you want to create a Kubernetes cluster, you can do that using code. And that is what infrastructure as a code means. There are lots of platforms which are available like CloudFormation and Terraform, which helps in orchestrating our final deployment environment. The next one is system configuration as a code. There are tools which can help us in leveraging these like Ansible, Chef, and Puppet. So these are different tools which we can use to store the system configurations of our final Kubernetes cluster, right? And finally, the application configuration as a code. If let's say we are using Kubernetes, we will be having a Kubernetes specific configuration as well into Git. So that is nothing but the application configuration as a code. And Hasura is a CLI which is useful in orchestrating this particular deployment. And of course, we have application source code, which is our application which we will be deploying into this particular cluster. So this is what Git as a source of truth means. So we have right from the application till your infrastructure maintained as a code. So this is what GitOps helps us. So this is the start of GitOps, and the operation part is where you automate everything using pipelines and deploy that to production once you merge the code into your production branch. So let's take an example of how a GitOps repository is maintained, right? So this is how a structure of a GitOps repository looks like according to Weaveworks. So this is the company which has been using GitOps as a process, and they have published an article. If you go to their website, you can see a blog on GitOps, how they have operations team manage their configurations using pull requests. So they don't even have an operations team as such. They have developers who in fact deploy the infrastructure code as well as a part of their automation process, and they call it GitOps because all the configurations are managed in the Git repository. So let's see what do they say by managing GitOps repository, right? So they say that you should have only one repository for an application or a service. So you should have separate repository for each application or a service. Let's say I have 10 microservices. That basically means I have 10 GitOps repository, which will have all my infrastructure code. They also insist on having separate branches for each environment. Let's say I have three environment, dev, test, and prod. There should be three branches, one called dev, the other called test, the other one is called prod. So this is done in order to map each of these branches to different environments in the Kubernetes cluster, or in fact the Kubernetes namespace. Once you push your changes onto that particular branch, there will be a relevant automated pipeline which will be set up. So whenever there is a change in that particular branch, the pipeline deploys to that particular environment, and it also tests and identifies and verifies that okay, the environment looks good. So that way, when you're doing a change in your dev branch, once the dev branch succeeds, you will be able to merge your pull request to the test branch. And once the test branch build succeeds, you will be able to create a pull request in order to merge it to the production branch. And once you click on merge to the production, that is when it will deploy to the production environment. And if let's say you want to do a rollback, you can create another pull request and then you can just roll back to that particular previous state of the branch. So this way, every time you raise a pull request, you know what you are merging, and the pull request is being reviewed by somebody based on the success criteria of that particular automated branch pipeline. So this is how GitOps helps us in solving the automation problem. So this is how it looks like visually. So user one goes and changes the code in the Git repository. It creates a container image, and that container image is pushed to the container registry, and that is just updated into a config updater. And once you create a pull request in order to merge to a different branch, that's when it deploys to the concerned branch, and then it tests whether these are good. So for example, when I said when I want to promote from dev to test, I create a pull request, and that pull request will deploy to the dev environment and verify if it is all good. Once it's all good, the reviewer will be able to merge it. Once they merge it, it goes to the test branch, and once you create a pull request, it will deploy to that particular test branch. So this is the example of how GitOps pipeline can be configured, and GitOps is the process which we works as a company, which is nothing but a software as a service company, use it for deploying cloud native applications onto Kubernetes cluster. And lots of new softwares are getting built out of GitOps. So GitOps has been followed by one of the open source product, and they are using GitOps in order to deploy to Kubernetes. I'll cover the product tomorrow. If you know already about this particular product which is using GitOps, do let me know in the comment section below. Let's see how many of you are guessing it right. If you like the video, go ahead and like it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to it. Meet you again in the next video. Thank you very much.